Hi, today I am going to be giving some more in-depth thoughts on the book Who Was H.J. Heinz by Michael Burgan. The illustrations were done by Stephen Marchesi. I recently did my review of Who Was Milton Hershey by James Buckley Jr. If you've seen my recent library reads videos, you know that I like to read a lot of these books, but I never did individual reviews of them up until recently. So I don't know if I will do a review of every single one that I read. Probably not, but if it's interesting enough and I want to talk about it a little more, then I will, and why not? There have been plenty of books I read and didn't do reviews of, and I don't have to do reviews of every book, but I don't see the harm in doing a review of something I took time to read. And because these books are nonfiction and pretty educational, you might be interested in them too. Maybe either in checking out this book, I know a lot of them are available through my library system, or about learning more about the person, or whatever. As I've said, I love these books because they are short, simple, there are a lot of fun illustrations. You learn a lot of them even though they're pretty small. They're written for kids in mind, so they're pretty easy to understand. And a lot of these historical figures, celebrities, whoever, I may not want to read a super long, detailed adult biography of, but I won't mind reading these because it won't take long. So this is one of the many I have read recently. So I just wanted to say what this book is about, some of the things it involves, and some of the things I liked about it. So on the covers of these books, they always have such big heads, but sometimes you can notice smaller details. So as you can see, he's holding a bottle of ketchup. The name Heinz is probably most familiar to you by the ketchup brand, although he did a lot more than just make ketchup. So I won't go over everything this book goes over because that would kind of defeat the purpose of somebody reading the book, but I will just tell you some of what it talks about. So it talks about how, as a child, he picked vegetables from his family garden and sold them to people. So he got started in the food business pretty early on, and he was very hardworking with it and seemed pretty interested in it. He learned how to preserve food. The book goes over the history of the companies he was a part of and how they grew. The book has quite a focus on how quality of his products was important to him. Another thing that was important to him was his workers being treated properly and fairly. And this book goes over many examples of how he ensured those things. And I thought that was really nice to learn about. It also compared him to other companies when it came to those things and how he did better than them. As I said, he made a lot more than just ketchup. He did a lot with horseradish and many other foods. It went over how he was interested in new technology and how he would try to learn it, to utilize it, to grow his business. I mentioned that it teaches that quality was very important to him. It also goes over food purity and how some manufacturers were making their foods not as pure and how that was important to him for his food to be that way. It goes over his family. It talks about how his faith was important to him and how that was a part of his life and the things he did and how he advocated for things within that, such as Sunday school. Something I liked about this book was it contained some small excerpts from his diary. It would usually just be like a sentence. The book would be describing something in his life and then it would say something that he actually wrote about it, so I thought that was cool. Similar to Milton Hershey, I knew the name, but not really anything about the person themselves, and so I thought it was really interesting to learn more about the person, especially to learn that there were a lot of things that I thought were respectable about him. It sounds like he and Milton Hershey were similar in some ways. From reading this biography, it sounds like he was very hardworking, innovative, and caring towards his customers and workers. And learning about him and Milton Hershey, I think it would be nice if more businessmen and people who run companies were like that today. Another great thing about the Who Was books is you can learn a lot about history from them. Yes, each book focuses on a specific person, although some of them will be about the story of something or about a historical event or a group of people. Both of them are about individual people though, but you learn a lot about history from them because you might learn about a historical event that was going on in their lifetime or something they were a part of. So in this book, some of the historical things I learned a bit more about were the history of railroads, the history of ketchup, the Pittsburgh Railroad Strike of 1877, mass production, the World's Columbian Exposition of 1893. There was quite a bit about food in this, of course, such as what it means to pickle food. And like I said, because these are written for kids, they're pretty easy to understand, so things are explained in a pretty clear way. I'd say it's a maybe second, third grade level or so, but of course older people can still enjoy them. I still read a lot of books that were written with a child audience in mind, but if I like them and find them interesting, especially if they're educational, then I don't see why not read them. So I've been enjoying making reviews of these Who Was books, and as I said, I probably won't do a review of every one I read from now on, but if I feel like it, if it feels interesting enough, I'll do a little more in-depth review of it. So I enjoyed learning more about H.J. Heinz and the history of his company. I like food quite a bit, so I always enjoyed learning about him, so I think that's why I checked out the book about him and Milton Hershey at the same time. You can let me know if you knew anything about this person or if you were just familiar with the company. If you have any experiences with their products that you'd like to share, maybe you really like ketchup, I don't know. I will say ketchup is not my favorite condiment, but it's pretty good. Thank you for watching.